Close the deal, I am the destroyer. I am the chosen lawyer. Training hard to knock them to the floor. I am the chosen lawyer.
And we are back on the Chosen Life podcast. Faizan, Jonathan from Kormans LP, back for a second week. This man could be giving styling advice to King Charles. He actually was out in the UK, and King Charles regrets having seen how he styles himself, saying, man, I could take some tips from him. Alvin Tedjo, city councillor for Ward 2, not Ward 1, not Ward 3, Ward 2.
That's right.
Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, Jonathan. Really, this has been great. I've seen some of your podcast clips before. Excited to be a part of it.
It's not quite the wrestling podcast, not the baseball podcast, lifestyle, it's funny, but everything originates from lifestyle.
Yeah.
Eventually, and that's where, wrestling was born out of lifestyle, baseball. And everybody at the end of the day, it comes down to what lifestyle we're living and what life we're at. And when I picked the topic of the chosen life, this is before I even wrote a book. And the idea being was, in my mind, I either live my chosen life or I have a chosen life that I'm working towards. And when we bring guests on, the idea being is this person is living their chosen life, and man, they're fascinating me and teach me, captivate me and let me find my chosen life. So you're here to mentor and captivate people. So welcome.
I think you've found your chosen life too.
I'm still working on it. I did, it's been 2 months, I guess it was, since I went for a silent meditation retreat.
Yeah.
So talked about it for like 14, 15 years, finally booked it,
Right.
showed up there, almost threw the phone at them, said, here, keep it, I don't want it, and went 10 days disconnected from the world. Can you imagine a life of Alvin Tedjo where he hands over the phone and doesn't speak at all, nobody speaks to him, 10 days of silence?
I don't know. I don't know that I could imagine that. The closest I get is camping for a few days where we don't have reception, and then it just kind of drives me nuts a little bit. I need to know what's going on in the world.
That Jonathan's act was courageous. It's once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Yeah, 10 days. That's a
10
long
days,
time.
yeah.
So when I booked it back, now, and then when I went to the open house about 15 years ago when I was starting off in yoga, and the 10-day was that was a big thing, that was their max. Now they have 28 days and longer. And I'm thinking in my head when I was leaving, I'm good with this. I'm ready to start talking again. And these people this is just a warm-up act for them. So,
it is a good cleanse. And I've sort of had a smaller version of that. About a month and a half ago, my Twitter was hacked.
Right.
And so we tried to inform Twitter.
X,
sorry. And we were locked out. I was locked out for a month. So for a whole month, I didn't get to post. I didn't get to see what was going on. And one day, just a couple of weeks in, my wife didn't know. She was like, you seem more relaxed or happier for some reason. And I'm like, you know what? I bet you it's because I don't have my X access anymore. But it's better for my mental health to not be reading all that crap.
But this is what happens to celebrities, and celebrities get hacked and people take over their account.
Yeah.
And, besides moonlighting as a city councilor, you're on the other side of this because you have your podcast in camera.
Yep.
So gotta ask you, because I have a million things running through my head as I'm watching it, because you've had some great guests already. 200 plus videos on your YouTube account, Alvin. But podcast going about 6 months now?
Yeah, we started earlier this year. Yeah.
So walk us through it. First of all, the title, In Camera. How did you come up with the title? What's the theme?
So we are currently sitting in council chambers here in the city of Mississauga. And if you ever watch one of the meetings halfway through or near the end of the meeting, we always go in camera. And we physically all get up and we walk up there to that room, which is the council caucus room. And we have an in-camera discussion, which is just a way to say it's a private, non-public conversation where we can be candid and make decisions that are important. And usually the reason it has to be secret is, there's some legal issues or there's some privacy issues. And so it's not something that we can talk about openly in the public. I like the idea of calling it in camera because I want people to see what happens behind the scenes. And the people that I've invited onto this podcast, we've had people like former Premier Kathleen Wynne, former Mayor of Toronto, John Tory, also former leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, Tim Hudak, Mayor of Guelph, Cam Guthrie, some really great people to talk about how the decision-making process works for them, what they thought about when they faced a certain crisis. what their goals were, how they brought people together. I want people to see, not just politicians, but everybody who's involved in public life as people, and not just, the face you see, the talking head you see on TV, right? And so that way, I think it brings a bit more humanity to it, but also I think it's more engaging to sort of hear people sort of say in their own words, and not as sort of a scripted interview process, what their thought process was when they made a certain decision.
Well, that's not only educating common man or someone who's viewing you like a politician, but also giving that perspective of how it would be if you are in a council chamber making in-camera call, or having a very candid discussion between councillors at the city hall. So
Yeah, I always find people kind of engage in politics casually, right? And it's usually something that catches their attention. And the reason it catches their attention is because it's something outrageous, right? And it's like, what? How did they make that decision? Why? That doesn't make any sense. That's not common sense, whatever it is, right? So I want to peel the curtain back and sort of show people, well, this was the thinking behind it. Or sometimes, you deserve to be, you're right to be outraged because that was a dumb decision, whatever it is, right? But it's also an opportunity to educate and talk about issues in a more in-depth manner, right? You like this, we get to kind of get into it and not just give you that 15, 30-second soundbite.
Preference-wise, in the podcasting world, sitting in the host chair or the guest host? In the guest chair, which one do you like?
I think hosting is easier.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's more preparation in hosting for sure, right? Because you want to have an engaging conversation. You want to drive, your guests to give them the opportunity to say what they want to say. You're also thinking about, what clips do you want to pull out of this? So maybe that is actually more work. It's definitely more work on the other side to be the host. And then when you get to show up as a guest, you kind of just say what you think, right?
Because I'm thinking, because I think when I started off in the pod, so I've been doing this for about 3 years now, podcasting wise. And I think at the beginning, I would have preferred the host chair as well. And after doing different shows over X amount of time, I think, let's say about 200 episodes or so, I like being in the guest chair now. You know what? It's fun to set up the parameters and to fire off the questions. It's also fun to show up, not know what the agenda is going to be, and just shoot something at me.
Yeah.
So
you know what, Jonathan? Chosen Life Podcast is watching.
Yes.
We might have you as the guest and all the lawyers to grill on questions with an uninformed agenda on that.
I only have been the guest once on this show, and I still wrote the questions, but people didn't know that. Now, Tim, it's funny, you list off the 3 guests there, multiple guests, but 3 I was thinking in my mind. Tim Hudak was sitting in your chair at one point, so he has been on the show. How did I acquire Tim Hudak on the show? I was at the Adelaide Club. He was speaking as the keynote speaker.
Yeah.
And I showed up a little late, and right as the processions were starting, and I ran to the bathroom quickly. And as I'm going into the bathroom, Tim Hudak's coming out, and we have a 5-minute conversation. I'm kind of racing to go to the bathroom, and he's just very speaking and engaging, and I keep trying to hold it in. But we became kind of close friends in the bathroom proximity. And then when I reached out to him, a a year later, he remembered who I was and happily came on the show. He's a really engaging guy. Like he's a great dude.
I love Tim Hudak. He is he's a great guy. He's an honest, great person. Really nice. Most people don't know that. They don't see that side of Tim. And he's a radio host as well. He interviewed me a number of times when I was running for politics. Brought me on the radio show. But even going back to his days as leader of the official opposition in Ontario, as leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, you run into him as a staffer going to, either conventions or sort of the galas that we have in and around Queen's Park in the committee rooms and whatnot. And then you start seeing him not as an enemy from the other side. You see him as a real person behind the scenes. And I told him this in person a couple of times. I was like, Tim, if people really got to know you, we would be in huge trouble, we being the party at the time, because he is such an affable person in real life, but he had a different persona when he was leader of the opposition, right? He felt like he had to almost play a character.
He took his pulley up juice, you know. He was
Yeah,
ready to go.
yeah,
"Oh, yeah,
Yeah, he was, he was the everyday angry man to try and make sure that the government was doing what they were
Part
supposed
of
to
his
do.
role, yeah.
Yeah, and that was his role. But if people really knew Tim Hudak, I think they'd be very impressed.
And I would say I've met enough people that are friends with him, have met him, know him, never had one person ever say a bad thing about
No,
him.
that's the real him.
Yeah,
That's the real him.
and that really is the real him. And I've met him in different settings, and he's very engaging. Will give you all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, he's there. Now I'm not a little jealous. I'm very jealous because I was trying to track down Kathleen Wynne for months. I've tried every possible angle. You got her on the show. Walk us through that because she is a very well-known persona.
Yeah.
One that tries to stay out of the public eye these days. How did that come to be on the
And
show?
you've worked with her.
I did
as a
work with her. Yeah, she knew me not just as a staffer, but when I ran in 2018, I was one of the candidates, one of the new candidates, because they had expanded the number of ridings in Ontario. So the government the Liberal Party needed to recruit new candidates. So I ran as one of her candidates. And so she kind of knew who I was at the time, but she didn't know me that well. We got to know each other a little bit more when I started making some videos when I was running. Nobody was really doing that back then.
Yep.
Kind of the, walk and talk style that you saw Justin Trudeau do, but you never really saw like local politicians do that.
This is pre-COVID.
Yeah, this is pre-COVID, and I was doing that back in 2017. And so, her and her team kind of noticed it a little bit. She came to my riding a couple times. Fun fact, her last campaign event of that 2018 election that she lost, that we all lost, was at my campaign office. We had hundreds of people. We filled it. We had a big rally going into election day. And so that was a nice sort of like send off.
Yeah.
So we kept in touch. We had a couple of lunches and dinners together over the years. She's always very very accessible to people who've been around her, right? She knows that you helped a lot and you gave a lot of your time. And so she has a lot of time for people like that. And then when I ran for leader to replace her, I ran on things like basic income, childcare, merging the school boards, things I know that she cared about, some things that she couldn't talk about, that I think she respected me for taking a position on. And so she said, anything you ever need, just ask. So we've become friends over the years.
And there are a lot of people that have a lot of opinions about her. And I would say to those people, good or bad, click on Alvin Tedjo, find his YouTube channel. Not difficult to find at all. Click on that episode. You'll see a different side of Kathleen Wynne. I didn't even reckon. First of all, I didn't reckon she had the hair down, literally.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. Like I feel like I'm gonna go have some muffins and bake cupcakes with her. Like she's really mellowed out. But I think that's the real Kathleen.
Absolutely. I have a lot of time and space for Kathleen Wynne. I know people had their issues with her. I think history will be kinder to her and what she and her government were able to do. And she was also a trailblazer. She never wore that on her sleeve, that she was the first woman or the first openly gay person ever to hold that office. But that still mattered, right?
Yeah.
And she won a majority government when nobody expected her to. And then she immediately went to implementing an activist agenda, right? And she had her priorities in education and healthcare and transportation. And a lot of those things take a long time. And you can see even this government sort of benefiting from some of those decisions. Now, were there some mistakes made? Sure. But, you learn from that and you try to do the best you can moving forward.
Alvin, we'll just switch positions now. We'll get you on the board to ask questions about your adventures at the provincial level and then your mayoral campaign at Mississauga. You came second with 35% of the vote share, which was a great showing first time, especially knowing that this is your first term in the office as a councillor.
Yeah.
So walk us through those experiences step by step, where you started off with the province, then you went into the leadership race, and then the mayoral campaign.
Yeah, so I worked in the Ministry of Colleges and Universities, or higher education, as well as research and innovation. We did training as well, and so I was brought in to help with their communications. And then after a couple of years working for a couple of ministers, one minister in particular, Brad Duguid, said, "You know what? I know you have a great policy mind. I know that's what you really want to do, but I need my policy person to have a communications lens, because it doesn't matter what we do if people don't know that we're doing it, right?" And he was a guy that had been shuffled every single time there was a cabinet shuffle. So he would say on the first day, I don't know how long we're going to be here. We might be here 6 months. We might be here a year and a half. But I know that we are going to get things done. And so I don't care how many things are on the agenda. Could be 100 things that we're trying to do in this short term. We are going to do 3 things. Everyone's going to know what those 3 things are, and we're going to make sure we get that done before we're out of this office, right? And that was increasing access to education, lowering tuition, and making sure that we increased funding to OSAP and other programs to make it more accessible. So that was huge for us, right? To kind of have that focus and direction. Then I went over to Sheridan College, was their director of government and community relations, got me into the community, ran in the 2018 election, obviously was not successful.
Well, you ran 2014 as well. You just mentioned.
Yeah, that was for city council.
City council, yeah.
That was kind of just an opportunity to sort of get my feet wet a little bit.
Okay.
I'd been involved in campaigns, but you learn way more running than you do participating or
Yeah, of
helping
course,
out in
yeah.
any other way, right? And you learn a lot about yourself because when it's your name on the ballot, you're only accountable to yourself, right? And so that's the biggest thing I think I would say is the difference between running municipally or for leader versus being on a party ballot, right? Because being on a party ballot is almost easy because you're just being the spokesperson for the leader and for your party. But if you're running for leader of that party, or you're running for mayor, or you're running for councillor, it's about you as a person, your experiences, and what you bring to the table. And it's your ideas and the people that are going to be around you, right? So I jumped at the chance after Kathleen resigned, even though it seemed audacious at the time, but the party was in such a bad state with only 7 MPPs that, we kind of said, why not? Why not go in and push where we think the province needs to go, right? Universal childcare, universal basic income, merging the school boards to try and get more funding into the system. It wasn't about Catholics or public, that wasn't the focus of it. The focus was how do we do more with what we've got and make a better education system. So I was happy to do that. And then, obviously I didn't win that race, but we didn't expect to win that race. That was kind of, building experience, building a team. And then in 22, when Karen Rass resigned, she called me and said, hey, you should run again for councillor. And, I was kind of thinking, I'm not sure if I want to go back to that. But she said, I'm asking you because I think you're a good person. I think you care about what happens in this community. Even though, she was a lifelong conservative, her husband was the conservative candidate in our area, and I was obviously the liberal candidate. That didn't matter because she said, local politics isn't partisan. Local politics is about doing what's best for your community. Right. And that's not a partisan thing. And so I was happy to have her support there. And then when Bonnie Crombie resigned from being mayor to being leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, this is all kind of tied together.
It always is.
It left that vacuum. We needed a new mayor. And because it was a by-election, there was an opportunity to run in that race without giving up your seat.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So next year when we have our election, somebody like me or anyone else on council couldn't run for mayor and run for their seat. Right. So you would lose that seat if you took that risk to take that leap. But at the time, I thought, again, just the same time when I was thinking about running for leader, this would be an interesting exercise. I could run for mayor. I could talk about how do we move the city forward, right? What's our vision for this city? We're a great place to live, but we've got some serious challenges, right? It is one of the least affordable places to live in the entire country.
Right, yeah.
It is densely populated in some areas, yet sparsely populated in others. There's only one real mode of transportation. So when people say they like their car, I'm like, great. I love that you love your car. I love my car too. But 98% of trips in the city, maybe it's not that high, it's probably 95, are taken by a car, which means you don't have a choice. You have to use your car.
Yeah.
And I want to give people the choice to either take transit, walk, or ride a bike. But you're not going to do that unless the transit's reliable, unless it's safe to walk and safe to ride your bike. Right? So let's introduce these ideas in terms of how can we look to the future for the city, right? And that's what led me to sort of say, yeah, okay, let's get into it. And we only lost by a few thousand votes, so I think we excited some people.
You literally were reading my mind. I love this. Like I'm trying to plant seeds from over here, telepathic, and he's reading them. So I got to segue and ask you, because this is an issue that comes up time and time again during election time and different stages in our society, with its federal, provincial. It's how does one pick an affiliation? So are you born bleeding liberal or red, or is it because your parents vote? Like how does one pick a party? Because sometimes it's a party calling the person saying, hey, we've done some research on you. You have a mutual friend, like to come meet you. And other times it's people seeking out the party.
Yeah.
Or it could be the issues that you
Yeah.
align with.
I mean, I will start by saying I do wish we were less partisan, because I do believe that there's more that unites us than divides us,
Right.
and that most of us can find common ground on a lot of issues. I also tend to believe that most Canadians are somewhere in the middle, right? And that the less we allow and encourage the fringes to enter the public, zeitgeist, the better. I don't like having these arguments on the fringes, because I don't believe most Canadians are on the fringes, right? And so it's not good when you have Alberta separation on one side talking about things that are just, not real plausible things, or things that we should even be discussing. And it's also not the worst place in the world to live, and we've turned this place into a hellhole. That stuff's not true, right? Most of us are in the middle. We want the best opportunity for our families. We want good businesses. We want people to be able to advance. Most of us are capitalists in one way or another, and we want a good social safety net, right? We want an affordable place to live, and we want it to be safe. Everybody wants that. So what are the real differences between the parties is how we get there, right? And to me, it was always important that we were in a position that you could affect that change, and that you were part of a group or a party that was sort of in the center there, that could attract different people to those issues and to those causes. And so, when I was a young liberal when I was in my teens. Part of that, I think my mom and one of my poli-sci classes, I remember learning that 60 or 70% of people will first vote the same way their parents vote, right? And my parents came in when Pierre Elliott Trudeau was prime minister.
Yeah.
They remember that, and that's one of the reasons they voted that way. I think my dad voted conservative a couple of times too, because he was a business owner and he thought that's what would be good for him. But my mom kind of got me into that a little bit, and then you kind of find your tribe or your home a little bit, but then you realize, it's a group of people that are trying to do the best they can. The Conservatives are doing the same thing. The New Democrats are doing the same thing. We just have different ways of getting there. So I like that municipal politics isn't partisan, because it gives us an opportunity to work together with other people from different parties, right? Like some of my, Sue McFadden is a Conservative. She ran for Pierre Poilievre. Brad Budd is a Conservative. He was a Harper Tory. Carolyn Parrish was a liberal in the John Chrétien days, and so there's a lot of us here that had previous political affiliations, but issue by issue, we don't follow those partisan lines here.
The best part is that you were able to pull off 1 out of 4 in Mississauga voting for you for your agenda when you went for the mayor election. So that means there is value in what you're saying, 100%.
Yeah, and when we talk about affordability, that's not a liberal issue. It's everybody's issue, right? And so we attracted a lot of Conservatives. We talked about freezing property taxes. We talked about running services more efficiently in the city. That attracted a lot of Conservatives that said, yeah, we need that. But then we also talked about expanding services where it made sense, right? Making sure that we had housing and we were driving the economy forward, and that attracted other people to us. So I wanted to put forward, the most comprehensive platform for a vision of the future of the city, right? So it wasn't really just about me. It wasn't really about me. I was just sort of the vessel that we were using to try and get this moving forward, to get people to think about the city differently. And the fact that we started at, within the margin of error in our first poll, we were at 3%. And you always hear plus or minus 3%. So we were within the margin of error in our first poll. To coming in second, just a few thousand votes away, I think is a testament to what we were able to do in terms of getting our message out and what we were talking about.
Still got a million questions for this man. He's the most fascinating man I've met in politics. Sorry, Tim, but we're gonna have to bring you back for another week. But before we do and wrap up today, I got 2 hard-hitting questions for you.
Yeah.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, you're gonna laugh at this one. So, number 1, Alvin, the federal politician, let's say, Alvin provincial, Alvin municipal. Are they the same guy? Because in my mind, when you're sitting on each level, there's so many different concerns and so many different level considerations. You almost can't be the same person.
Great
Because,
questions,
yeah, how do you see, like, if you were acting federally versus where you are today, you'd be almost a different person, wouldn't you?
You kind of have to be. You have to work in the building that you're in, right? And the parameters that you're in. Not that we can't affect what happens at other orders of government, but we need to play within our own sandbox, right? Crime, for example, is a big issue that has been talked about a lot in my neighborhood, a lot in the Region of Peel in the city of Mississauga. It was going up for several years. I can't change bail reform. I can't change the criminal code. I can criticize other governments for not doing that, but what can I do? I can hire more police officers. I can support the police that we have on the ground. I can make sure they have the resources they need and the community safety network that we need to create. I can do that. So that's what I'm going to do. While on the side, we still try to get those other things done with those other orders of government, but that's their job, right? So absolutely, you do need to have a different hat and a different sort of perspective depending on what you're doing.
Like, I was thinking in politics in general, Patrick Brown, 1 minute provincial, 1 minute he's the mayor of Brampton, then he's back to federal, now he's back to mayor. It's amazing how you can flip-flop, and all of a sudden just take off the hat, put on another hat, and boom, ready to go. So some are better than others at it. Not everybody's interested in it. Some people are, I'm provincial, I'm federal, I'm not going to those other waters. That's not something I'm comfortable with. I know my stream, I'm staying in my stream.
Or just, for example, Hazel McCallion. She stayed in Mississauga all her life.
I mean, she was rumored, and a couple of times, she was rumored to be a candidate, or she was going to be a candidate for the Liberals, and then she was going to be for the Conservatives. So she straddled that line really well.
I think if she was going to make it to 120, she was going to be prime minister. That was her game plan.
Anyways,
But, it's not a bad thing, because as long as you have a central core of values, you can apply those values at any job that you're in or any order of government that you're in, right? And so if your values are to help people, to make life more affordable, to make this place more livable for the people that you represent, whether it's provincially, federally, or municipally, then great, go and do that.
So for question number 2, this one was a biggie.
Yeah.
You'll find out next week. We're going to bring him back for 1 more week. He's going to have to be in anticipation, but this is a good one. Alvin Tedjo, this is the Chosen Life Podcast. We'll see you all back soon.